Starting in August 2017, New York-based illustrator Adam Ellis began posting a series of tweets that would become one of the most viral online ghost stories of the decade. What started as a single thread about a strange reoccurring dream unfolded over the next year into a real-time haunting, followed by millions on Twitter, in which he claimed he was being haunted by the ghost of a young boy with a caved-in skull, known only as Dear David. The story began on the 7th of August 2017 when Adam tweeted his first of many tweets. "So my apartment is currently being haunted by the ghost of a dead child, and he's trying to kill me." In a follow-up tweet, he states, "He started appearing in dreams, but I think he's crossed over into the real world now." He goes on to explain that the first time he saw this dead child was during sleep paralysis, where he had this nightmare and noticed this child sitting on a green rocking chair at the foot of his bed. We see what the boy looks like for the very first time through a crude drawing Adam shares with his followers. He then goes on to claim that the child actually moved towards him in the nightmare, leaving Adam to waking up screaming and terrified. At this point in the story, many of you might be thinking the exact same as I did, that it was just a bad nightmare mixed with sleep paralysis, and it doesn't actually mean anything paranormal happened. But the story did not end there. A few nights later, Adam claimed he had a dream where a girl asked him in a library if he'd met who she called Dear David, explaining to him that he can only ask David 2 questions as long as he started with Dear David, but warned him if he asked any more than 2 questions, he would be killed. In his inevitable next dream with David, he asked him how he had died. David answered, "An accident in a store." Adam asked him what happened in response, and David answered, "A shelf was pushed on his head." Adam then asked him who did it, with no response from David, and he quickly realized that he had asked him the 3rd question, something that he was told he should not do. The next few weeks though went by without incident, and Adam moved to a larger apartment above him. Things seemed to be back to normal as the dreams faded into distant memory. But just as things were going back to normal, he noticed something strange with his cat's behaviour. For 4 nights in a row at 12 AM, his cats gathered at his front door, just staring at it. Adam looked outside, claiming he saw movement through his peephole, convinced that maybe Dear David had found him. He would share photos of outside this door, trying to convince us that something was there. His cats, according to Adam, would continue what became their routine of looking at the door every night at 12 AM, leaving him all the more petrified of what could happen next. Getting desperate, Adam put salt along the door and began recording audio, sharing a couple of clips like this one. Now to me, there isn't really anything there with these audio clips. He claimed he did 33, he only shared a couple of them. But the evidence actually doesn't stop there, because his next piece of evidence he used were Polaroids. Using his Polaroid camera, he took multiple images of the hallway outside his front door and noticed a bizarre result, that the Polaroid was completely blank. Even with the light source in the hallway, he wasn't getting any results. His followers suggested that he take the photo further back, and he did a comparison between the digital photo on his phone and the Polaroid. Now, as you can see with the digital photo, you can see the hallway is lit. When you look at the Polaroid, it shows the hallway quite dark. Now, this is actually quite a simple explanation. The digital camera has better sensors and is just better for low light exposures. Where if you look at the Polaroid, because it's further away from the subject being the hallway, the flash just simply isn't reaching the hallway and it's not lighting it up. There's nothing really supernatural here. Now, I just want to mention here, because I think this is an important part of the story at this point, to say that he was getting quite a lot of attention from followers and going viral because of the story. So this obviously would incentivize him to continually tell the story and add more scares and fear and everything that you can to make it as sensationalized as possible. But at this point, many of his followers were convinced that he was being haunted by a baby called David. Now, in his desperation, Adam's next attempt to get rid of David was to use sage, but found out pretty quickly that it had no effect, because he was so desperate to make this nightmare end. Months again would pass without anything happening, until one night Adam claimed Dear David appeared yet again in another dream. In this dream, David sat in a chair in his room, physically smaller than he had seen David before, just staring at Adam. As time passed, more and more dreams came, and this is when Adam claimed things became more physical. In one dream, he claimed that David dragged him into a warehouse, and when he woke up, his arm was bruised. Now, the warehouse in question was actually one that wasn't far from where he lived, that he passed every time he went to get a coffee. That particular warehouse was actually empty, but when he looked into the warehouse, he saw a green chair, which was a very similar colour to the green rocking chair he had had in his bedroom when he first met David. If that wasn't bad enough, his cats began a new routine, crying at the front door at around 10 p.m. every night for around 15 minutes, and by 10:30 every single night, when the cat stopped, his phone would ring and it would be an unknown number. After multiple nights of calls, Adam finally got the courage to actually answer and claimed that he heard a faint hello. At this point now, Adam was completely terrified and was running out of options. He genuinely did not know what he should do to solve this problem he was having. Now, luckily for him, he was going to Japan soon, so he was hoping that would free him from David, at least temporarily, while he was away. But before going away, he decided to set up some pet cams and decided to test them one weekend when he wasn't home. And the next couple of videos that he shared with Twitter would send a lot of people into panicked frenzy. In one clip, we see the green rocking chair that is now in his living room rocking by itself. In another video, we see a turtle shell that he has on the wall just randomly fall with nobody there. Now, naturally, of course, these are things that are very simple to fake, but a lot of people were convinced that it was David messing with him. Now, Adam himself at this point admitted that individually all these occurrences could be explained with logic, but the fact that they were all happening at around the same time suggested that it had to be something more supernatural going on. As time passed, Adam claimed more dreams were coming. In one such dream, he described seeing a severed head on his pillow, smiling at him. Now, the warehouse that we had mentioned previously in this video was now shut, and Adam claimed that as he walked by one day, someone had hit the shutter. He shared the photo with his followers that he took of inside the warehouse from a window a foot above him. And if you look at the very corner, you can kind of see a blur, a kind of what looks like a face, according to Adam, in an attempt to convince us that it had to be David. On his trip to Japan, things were relatively quiet as he posted some photos of what he was up to and just having a generally nice time not having to deal with David. He would share an image in the park that freaked a lot of people out, of a statue of a face that looks a lot like David. Now, to be fair, it kind of does look like David, but I'm not really sure what his claim is here, that David warped the statue to mess with him. He travelled all the way to Japan, but it did prove a point to many of his followers who had constantly suggested Adam to move out of the apartment, that David was following him no matter where he went. With his arrival back in the apartment, the weirdness continued, with bulbs burning out in the hallway and his TV flickering on and off before breaking completely. He also shared his photo of his peephole after hearing noises again on the other side of his front door, claiming something was looking at him through it. He would post a sketch with the image of the peephole, giving the impression that it was David looking through it. More time passed yet again and things went back to normal as they always did. Adam actually had a friend cleanse the place and David seemed to go away. His cats were acting normal and David thought maybe this was finally over, maybe I could get on with my life. But it wasn't the end of the story. Adam passed the warehouse one morning noticing that a hearse was parked inside and took this photo and claimed that David was in the back of the hearse looking at him. He would also share a photo out his window one night claiming David was out there, and if you increase the exposure you can see David. 4 months would pass without incident yet again until David appeared in his dream, sitting on the recliner staring at him. Adam this time felt less paralysed, so he took out his phone and took photos as David moved towards him before waking up that following morning with David not being there. Next up, Adam would claim hearing noises above his apartment which got worse over time. He would go on to share clips of him lifting the hatch above the stairwell with a pole and you see a shoe falling out. He would convince his landlord to come over and have a look, who inspected the hatch, but all he could find was an old marble and nothing else. Now, a lot of the noise he was hearing, I would argue, is pretty explainable. Could have been some sort of raccoon or possum or birds living up on the roof. At this point, Adam complained that he was feeling dizzy, was getting poor sleep, and felt like he was being constantly watched for nights on end. So he decided to put a camera in his room and would share some of these images with his followers yet again. In the photo shared, we see David moving towards the bed, and in this particular image, which is the creepiest of all, right next to Adam, Adam was shocked and terrified and would go quiet for a while as he travelled to see his family in Montana for the holidays. But while he was home with his family, he began to notice some strange occurrences and would share a photo of footprints he saw in the snow that he admitted himself could be animal tracks and most likely were animal tracks. But he was so freaked out by all these occurrences that had been going on the last few months that any sort of normal occurrence to him in his mind had to be David. When he arrived back from Montana, the dreams only got worse. On his Twitter, he would mention one particularly terrifying moment where he could feel all this pressure on his chest and could see David hovering above him. He still had his camera set up in his room and shared these creepy images of David literally lying on the bed beside him, which is probably the creepiest image of this whole saga. Now after this, everything actually began to calm down. There was no weird occurrences or nightmares, and Adam was actually feeling better. Then all of a sudden he started claiming he was losing windows of time an hour here or there, and he would also share a photo on Instagram that was corrupted for some reason that he couldn't explain, who he believed again was David messing with him. Now the last video he would share was of his cat meowing and looking at the front door yet again, seeming nervous and agitated. In his final tweet about Dear David, he said, "For everybody asking if I'm alive, I'm doing okay. It's been pretty quiet around here lately and I've been trying to focus on work. Of course, I'll keep you updated if anything strange happens, but for now, I'm staying busy with drawing and other projects." Adam would eventually move out of that apartment in 2018, and a movie called Dear David, based on his story, was released in 2023, produced by BuzzFeed, who he was working for at the time. The Dear David haunting ended as much as it began, quietly with more questions than answers. After months of tension and fear and worldwide speculation, Adam Ellis' story simply faded into silence. Whether the haunting stopped or the storyteller stepped away, no clear resolution ever really emerged. For believers, it's the most haunting story in real time. For me, it's purely fictional and a very clever way to use Twitter to captivate and terrify an audience in the modern world. At the end of the day, for the most part, what we saw were just images that were easy to Photoshop, and if you actually look at David in some of these images, to me at least anyway, he just looks like a baby doll that has been touched up with a bit of makeup. This is something to me that can be easily faked, and I personally am not convinced that this is in any way factual. It's just very, very clever storytelling in the modern world. But that's it guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe as always, and let me know in the comments what you think down below. Do you think David was a real baby demon trying to kill him? Or, logically, do you think that it was just all a big clever hoax? Because that's what it was. And you're not going to convince me otherwise. If you watch any of my other horror type videos, you will know that I do not believe in any of that. And a lot of what he said was pure hearsay. You know, like it was all dreams that he can't actually prove, besides the odd image and a bit of audio. So personally, I'm not convinced. Great story though, and it was an interesting one to read, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. But of course, this is Halloween this week, so if you celebrate Halloween, I hope you have a great Halloween. But that's it guys, thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Peace out.